I got another video about Jesus. So I'm going to get my husband because he needs to come home, because how am I going to raise these children all on my lonesome? But also, no, seriously, I want to talk about Jesus. So as somebody who is, all up in my forehead, as somebody who is fairly intellectual and whose mind kind of runs on a cycle, I have a tendency to get mad at God. Happens all the time, at least twice a week. So, but yeah, I get mad at God. And when I get mad at God, I have a tendency to be like, but God, like, you know, my brain can't stay on the problem at hand. Okay. God bless my husband. I'm working on it. But my brain doesn't work well to stay on the problem at hand. It goes back to the original issue, error. This is how we got here. I hate that we're here, blah, right? And so because of that, when it comes down to the Bible and following Christ and walking this narrow path and whatever else you want to call it, it's no different, right? It's literally no different. My brain has a tendency to just, you know, get mad at everything. I'm never just mad at like, okay, God, I had a bad week, or okay, God, this person cut me off in traffic, or okay, God, like my kid is being a kid and taking a really long time to learn this lesson, cough, cough, the same way that I do when Jesus is fussing at me about stuff. And my brain can't help but go from that to whatever the current problem is to God, really, if you just wouldn't have let the snake in the garden, we wouldn't be in this problem. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even, this wouldn't even be no big thing. You know, like, I get it. We're stupid little people, and we always want to do what we want to do. I'm not even gonna pretend like I don't. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't see stuff, and we'll read something in the Bible, and then we'll live a life experience and be like, this reminds me of that time God was like, don't do that, and do it anyway. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't happen. I'm not going to pretend like I don't show up to stuff like, God, I know you told me not to. I know you told me, but I just want to check. I just want to see. I'm not going to pretend like I don't eat of that fruit all the time. I'm not even going to flex on nobody like that. I show up to stuff that I know God told me not to do. And then gotta go home and repent, because I'll be like, I just wanted to know. And then I get my feelings hurt, or my body hurt, or just something be hurt. My emotions, my soul, I done broke something in my brain, done encountered a trauma I didn't need to. And yes, and then I go home and I cry to God about it, okay? And he be looking at me a little sideways like, honey, I told you. And I be like, I know. And then he pats my back and goes, okay, you can cry. And then when you're done crying, we'll fix it and we'll start over. But no, so what happens is, I be having an issue. And if you're like me and you have an issue where you be like, okay, God, but why did you let the snake in the garden though? This kind of feels like your fault. It kind of feels like your fault, God, because like, why did you let sin into the world? You could have made it, there could have been like a whole thing. You didn't have to, you knew with the snake, you knew what he was doing, God, you omniscient, you knew. Why you let this happen? And I was, you know, it wasn't that peaceful. I was screaming and crying and might have been cursing a little bit. But you know, I was just like, Jesus, I don't like this. And I don't know if I like you right now. Because like, why did you let this happen? And then God was like, I died for it already. And I think that sometimes when I think about the death of Christ and I think about the sacrifice that was made on the cross so sin could be crucified, so that we could live in intimacy with God forever, I often think of the gracious side of God, right? I think of the side of God that's like, no, you don't get it. I resolved that for you already. Now you just have to trust me because I fixed it. That's what I normally think of. But in that moment, I was complaining and I was like, but why did you do this, God? Why did you let this be possible? Like, why? Just why? And he didn't answer me. He didn't tell me why he let sin be a thing. He didn't tell me why he let rebellion be a thing. He didn't tell me why. I know with human beings, he gave us the dignity of free will. He made us in his image and he can choose. So he lets us choose and he works around those choices with us. But in that moment, I was really asking, why do I have to hurt? I was really asking, why is this the route that you took? Why is pain the avenue through which I have to travel? I don't like that you made pain a thing that can't exist. I don't like that you made this a thing that I can experience. I don't like that you allowed, like, why did you do this? And he said, I already died for it. And in that moment, it registered to me, oh wow, the sacrifice that you made and the love that you gave me, it wasn't only about the fact that you love, like, you've closed all loopholes. Like, even when we want to have those moments and we want to be like Adam and Eve and pass the blame of, well, the woman you gave me the fruit. Well, the snake you put in the garden deceived me. You know what I mean? Like, even if we wanted to say, well, God, it's your fault that sin exists. It's your fault that it's in the world. It's your fault that we're allowed to hurt. God just looks at you and goes, okay, but I've paid my price. I paid the price. I already lived the consequence of that. I lived a life as a man where I did nothing wrong, harmed no one, wronged no one, did, like, literally worked of my hands, minded my business, right? Like, I healed people. I fed people who were hungry. I told the homeless that they were worthy. I accepted the tax collector, the drunkard, and the prostitute. Ate dinner with people that society had told were worth nothing, and told them, no, God still loves you. Lived a life where I healed even my enemies. And after I lived a whole life having not partaken of sin, then I let you kill me for it. Then I took it all onto myself as though I had committed every sin by my own hand and died for the crime. So even if you want to be mad at me for sin and the fact that it exists and the fact that things can hurt, I already took the consequence of that. The consequence that you constantly want to throw onto one another, I already took it. So can we move on now? Can we understand that I am still all-knowing and still all good and still love you more than anything that you could ever imagine? And I want what's best for you. And I want you to be happy. And I want you to be joyful. And I want you to have peace. And I want you to live a life that ends with nothing but good. So you can be mad at me. And yes, it hurts. And you don't have a high priest who can't empathize with what you're suffering. Can we move on now? Because I promised you that this life would hurt. I told you even when I came as a man that suffering and trials were promised. But at the end of it, there would be something worth it. And so that's been resonating with me real heavy, that every time I go to feel myself getting mad at God, I'll be like, you're right, Lord, you already paid for it. You already paid for it. You literally already paid. It's fine. It's fine. I'm still sad about it. It still hurts. Give me a hug. And, we'll get through it. But yeah, I just was thinking about that.